You're calling from a 269 area code. Who's this?
This is Isha from Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Hi, Isha. How are you?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty well. What's going on?
Did you hear the news about the Chicago chief of police getting fired?
I did. I did mention that, I think, at the top of the show. It had happened just before we came on.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I missed the first 10 minutes of the show, but what I wanted to talk about is still the extreme right-wing rhetoric, and what I really hate about liberals is the fact that they take the right-wing talking point of what about black-on-black violence seriously and actually respond to it. But what it is, in my opinion, is that whenever they mention black-on-black violence, they are appealing to the tribalistic mentality of the white supremacist, whatever that word is, I can't pronounce it. How do you pronounce
Supremacists?
Supremacists, yes. Where they believe that blacks are inherently violent, and so since blacks are inherently violent and killing each other, they're kind of implying that we shouldn't care when one or two cops happen to kill one or two black people, and so they're basically disaffirming the movement by saying that black lives don't matter. And I've seen it time and time again, liberals on TV, MSNBC, CNN, anywhere. They actually try to argue this logically, point by point, instead of calling out that dog whistle.
Yeah, well, I mean, not only is it irrelevant, first of all, the idea of black-on-black crime, not only do the numbers that we get are, Trump tweets out often lies, but nevertheless, it is irrelevant to the issue as to whether or not black people should feel that those who have been hired by society to protect citizens are a danger to them. I mean, these two issues are completely distinct. The issue is not, is not what criminals do. The issue is what police officers who are paid to protect the citizens do. And if you cannot look to the police officers who are paid to protect the citizens to protect you because of the color of your skin, that's a huge problem. I mean, I want to say something different. It's effed up. And the idea that black criminals may kill more black people is completely irrelevant. Then, because we're talking about police, and they have a special place in society, as they should, because they are paid to police society. And so, yeah, it's irrelevant. I don't know why people even participate in that game. It is a completely separate question. I mean, that's like the functional equivalent of saying, you know what, we shouldn't worry about white people. I don't know why white people are so worried about crime, because so many more people are dying in cars. You know, I mean, it's basically like saying, like, if you want to stop white people from dying, tell them to stop driving. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous argument. And I don't even know that analogy does it justice, frankly, because the implications of having a vast segment of our society who feel, justifiably so, I mean, I don't think anybody would argue against that they cannot go to the police when they feel in danger, or they can't, even when they don't feel in danger, they feel endangered from the police. I mean, the implications of that are so massive in terms of people's productivity in society, people's sense of being a citizen in society, people feeling like they invest in society. I mean, I don't even know that. Frankly, I don't even know that I've even read anything about that really sort of tackles the implications of that, other than just an extreme feeling of alienation. I mean, we see how people react to that feeling, but I don't know if we have seen like a really deep sociological dive into what happens to a segment of the population when the official means of protecting all citizens decides we're excluding you from that. In fact, not only are we excluding you, we're going to be a threat to you. I mean, one can only imagine.
Oh, yeah, and I wonder if this actually, under the UN Human Rights Convention, actually counts as persecution based on race. I mean, in Canada, there was a case where an American black person went and said, hey, I want asylum because I've been targeted by the police 6 times in 1 year for ridiculous things. And so it actually might count as political persecution, because political persecution is where the government will not protect you, or the government is actively killing you, I guess. And it's done under the guise of law, and it's systematic for your class of people, and it seems to qualify, again, under the UN Convention for the Rights of Refugees.
Yeah, I think that guy is actually trying to raise money right now, actually. I feel like I ran across that at some point over the past week or so. I think that guy is trying to raise money. I mean, it's an interesting question because certainly if you have an apparatus of the government, I don't know. I mean, the only technicality would be, is it a function because these authorities are not federal authorities per se? But I don't know. I mean, that would be a very good question.
Federal authority. Actually, from my research, I did go to U of M Law School. So from my research, I know that federal authorities' non-action is equivalent, because in Pakistan there's like certain segments like the Christian population that get routinely persecuted, and it's by the local authorities, but inaction by the federal authorities in light of that counts as persecution.
Interesting.
And with the Laquan McDonald case, the video was clear, but it took, the police actively fought getting the video out for a whole year, and it seems like
we know that the police went to the Burger King and deleted the surveillance footage. I mean, it was just I don't know. Did he announce this over the weekend? The manager at the Burger King said, yeah, there were some cops who came and erased evidence. I mean, this is what I find stunning about this, and this is why you see Rahm Emanuel doing damage control, and frankly, that's all he's doing as far as I can tell. And that is that you clearly have a concerted conspiracy within the police department. The question is how many people are involved in this to destroy evidence, to hide evidence, and to slow walk this thing. I mean, it's clear that that's the case. And if this dash cam footage had never been sort of forcibly, or I should say relentlessly pursued by reporters locally, then none of this would have ever come out. And this guy would still be on the force. And, God knows how many times the guy has been engaged in this type of stuff before.
There were a lot of complaints against him that weren't followed up on.
There's about 18 of them.
18.
Well, I'm sure that's just a coincidence, right? I mean, it's just...
And don't forget...
And think about the mentality here, though. Think about the mentality of the police leadership that gets 18 complaints. None of them seem to be to bear fruit. We've investigated all 18. None of them bear fruit. Now, put aside the idea that, look, they shoot this kid down 16 times. And they go as far as they just go to the Burger King to erase the surveillance footage. They comb the entire area, right? This isn't just like we walked across to the Burger King. This is a systematic, I should say, subjugation of evidence. If the guys had 18 other complaints, how many more trips around the local neighborhood did they go? And if they're so bold that they're going to erase this footage, right? It's not like they paid off the Burger King manager. They just have gotten away with this in other cases. And the Burger King manager, maybe the only reason why the Burger King manager even thought about it was, because now there's news reports about it, right? The other 18 cases, there's no news reports about it. Maybe somebody wasn't killed. And so you've got a police leadership that says 18 cases of reports, but none of them bore out. This guy's fine to be on the force. I mean, at one point, right, if you have a leadership with some measure of integrity, they say, you know what, somewhere around 12, somewhere around 10 or 8, maybe 6 complaints, that's a red flag to me. Even if we can't come up with any evidence, of all these complaints, unless I see some particular, all these complaints are coming from the same person or something, or they all happen to be cousins, or they're all at the same wedding, or whatever it was. I got to start thinking there's a problem here. Unless I just don't want to find a problem. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's a very good argument for the federal authorities, and you won't see it because it's Rahm Emanuel, right? I mean, but if this was happening down in some city in Alabama, I have a feeling you'd see the feds there. The Department of Justice would say, we've got a problem with this police department. So
absolutely, it's a huge problem. And the thing is that that's even where it says that it seems like it's a Democratic and Republican mayor. Like, it does not matter. It's not just the Republicans who are doing this. It's everyone. And it's almost right now I've gone beyond police like acting like a gang, and now they're acting like a cult at this point in time.
Yeah, or they're just acting in the way that, frankly, look, you have white people who have been, exerting their supremacy in a multitude of ways, and part of it is just a broader societal question. I mean, look, we have larger systemic racial problems in this country, and we basically warehouse a segment of our population in very poor areas with very little opportunity, and then we pay, in some cases, guys who are thugs, not in all cases and not in the majority of cases, but certainly those are the ones who, if you are not, let me put it this way, the dynamic on these police forces, if you've got a guy who's got 18 citations, or I should say complaints against him, who can shoot this kid 16 times, there's other cops on the scene there, right? I mean, he's not the only cop there.
Yeah. No, there were 4 cops that put in the video.
And so these guys, because of the nature of the culture of the police forces that maybe have a certain inevitability to it, they get away with murder. And so these guys also have the ability to intimidate their fellow cops. And part of it is, we've had, a commenter on the IM here for a long time, a former cop himself, who basically says that from his perspective, the problem is the prosecutors, because the prosecutors don't dig into this stuff because they've got their relationship with the cops, that they need the cops. Cops are basically doing the retail work of their prosecutions. And so they need to maintain these relationships. And the prosecutors are hesitant to go out there and aggressively make sure that these cops are not abusing people and abusing their positions and their authority. And they're not doing it. And if prosecutors started to crack down on this, what you would do is you would send a message to the cops who are like this, that like, you're not going to survive very long doing this on this force. And you'd also send a message to the cops who are good cops and have integrity, that we got your back. That if you help us out, we're going to hold those people to account. You're not going to see them. They're not going to pull up and be your backup when you're in a situation that you're worried about. You're worried about getting shot in the back, or you're worried about your backup basically saying like, "Oh, you're the dude who ratted me out for killing that kid." So I don't know. There has to be greater reform, and I think a lot of it's got to come from the feds.
In Europe, they have a special inquest. Like in many countries, they have an inquest department for police misconduct, where the prosecutor is not in the police department.
Yes,
like here.
There has been a big move. I got to let you go, but there's been a big move, and we've had big arguments about it in New York City, about having these independent commissions to investigate these situations, and I think that is the best route to go, without a doubt. Appreciate the call.